For this video, Makeda and I are taking a closer look at the 8th strategy in the Integrating Language Arts and Social Studies book by Melber and Hunter, and our section is specifically about field trips. In paragraph 1, we find out that field trips are very important to the learning process. It brings in relevant and real experiences for students. It changes up the atmosphere that they're in so that they are not doing the same thing every day and just getting stuck in a routine, because that can cause issues when they're trying to learn because they can become distracted or bored. It helps with their critical thinking because it refines, clarifies, and amplifies the classroom learning. So you would take a subject in the classroom and then add on to it and elaborate when you are out in the field for your field trip. One important thing that the teachers need to know before they take their students on a field trip is, what do you want your students to be accomplishing? This needs to be prepped way before the day of. You would set up different learning experiences in the classroom. So for my example, I'm using the ranch that I'm at right now. So something that you could do with that is, if you have older students, you could have them research the life cycle and the reproductive cycle of the animals that you are specifically going to be seeing. Here they specifically have Black Angus cows, so you could talk about when they get bred, the whole process, that it takes 9 months just like people, that when they give birth, and just the whole process throughout it. And you need to be able to focus the students' attention on the specific aspect that you want them learning about.
We thought the third paragraph of this introduction is significant because it talks about what we want our students to think about critically as they're going through this field trip. It reads, prior to the field trip, teachers need to work with students so they will understand what they will see, how they are expected to behave, and how the field trip relates to what they are studying. Parker, 2009, suggests that using the KWL chart, know, want to know, and want to learn, activity to assess what students already know about the place to be visited. This activity can also be extended to include what students know and want to know about behavioral expectations. Learners can be asked to use this activity to speculate on how the trip relates to the curriculum and question themselves on what they want to learn from the field trip. Finally, the KWL strategy provides a post-trip activity as pupils complete their chart to record what they have learned. Teachers can lead discussions to have classes think critically and connect to what they wanted to know and what they did learn. Most specifically, class discussions can revolve around how the field trip confirmed what was presented in the curriculum prior to the trip. Students may also consider how what they saw caused them to question what they had previously learned or raise new questions for exploration. So one resource that I found was this article titled Before, During, and After Field Trips, What You Can Do to Ensure Effective Student Learning Experiences. And it's important because it talks about what you need to do before the field trip. So communicate goals and expectations, how you want them to act, the kind of thinking that you want them to have throughout the field trip itself, and communicate what you want them to get out of it, and try to develop curiosity within your students. So kind of like what it says here, establish questions to answer and hypothesize to test about. And then specifically about the KWL charts, it serves several purposes, just eliciting students' prior knowledge, what they already know for what they know now, what they want to know, trying to develop that curiosity, that engagement, what the purpose is for reading. And then it helps students monitor their comprehension, so you can see how things are developed throughout what they're learning, how their learning changed, things like that.
In the fourth paragraph, it talks about what you should provide for your students while you're at the field trip. This is specific questions that they need to look at, critical focus. All of this needs to be explained prior. So you would look through your questions, look through the worksheets that they're supposed to be doing while they're supposed to be doing it, and ask them if they have any questions about it. You can specify then what they need to know, and they can really engage and learn. You don't necessarily have to have them filling anything out. You can also do this through small group discussions where you can have a chaperone standing nearby and you can ask them to monitor and give you feedback on what their specific discussion was about in their group. You can also do this through photo documentation. You could have them do a scavenger hunt while they're on their field trip. So in this case, you could have them take a picture of a calf warmer, an ear tagger, maybe some of the shots that they are given. You could have them get a picture of a calf while it's suckling. There's many different things so that you know your students are focused and paying attention throughout the field trip. Next, I am going to explain what you as a teacher want to do prior to your class visiting the site. Right now, I'm demonstrating what you would do for a pre-field trip visit. So right now, I'm on my fiance's ranch, and I'm going to be talking about the different aspects that you would want to look at to make sure that the field trip would be accessible to all students. So first, can a bus get here? I know that a bus can get here because my fiance's little brother rides the bus to school and it comes to pick him up right in their yard every day. And does it relate to a classroom topic? I think right now the whole ranch and farm life and all that goes on really relates because of the coronavirus. It really shows that even though everything else in the country has pretty much stopped and is just at a standstill, they're still working out here and still trying to provide what they need to for the country and for the towns and for the people. Can all students access it? This is questionable because right now out here it is really muddy and mucky. So you would want to make sure that your students are going to have the proper footwear, and sometimes that is not achievable. Also, it would not be very easily wheelchair accessible out here, but there are options such as the Ranger or side-by-sides that can be used to bring students around to the different areas that we would be looking at. You would just want to make sure that you have the parents' permission for them to ride in that vehicle with whoever is driving. And is it appropriate for grade level? I think you could make it appropriate for any grade level. You've got the younger kids where they could learn just about the process of the mom raising the calf, or with the older 6th through 8th grade, you could learn about the reproductive system, maybe see a calf being born, depend on what's going on that day. And I think it would be a really excellent field trip for students to go on.
The fifth paragraph in our introduction talks about virtual field trips, which I think kind of speaks to our situation now and is pretty innovative with using different mediums to help student experience things outside of the classroom. So it reads, virtual field trips using the internet to explore places that are too far or expensive to actually visit have become increasingly popular as ways to electronically expand students' opportunities. The guidelines for an actual field trip apply to these visits also. Teachers should provide learners with pre-trip clarifications and expectations. So for this paragraph, I thought it might be helpful to show you some actual sites to help see these virtual field trips in action. So one of these sources is the British Museum, the Museum of the World. So this actually allows you to scroll back and forth through time, through these different regions. And you can specify what you want to look for, and it'll help with these regions. So this section right here with the eye, you can look specifically for art and design, and you want to look in Oceania at around 1800 AD. So let's scroll to 1800 AD. So for example, the Malagan funerary carving. So students can go through and look through what they want to find through different regions, and they can experience different regions and events through time. So they can do trade and conflict, religion and belief, power and identity, and then living and dying. Also on Discovery Education, they have a great resource for virtual field trips. So for example, there's like the Tundra Connections for seeing the polar bears. And then there's actual assignments and activities to go along with this viewing experience. And it'll allow students to get right up close and personal with, not in actuality, but it'll feel as if they're seeing them in person. And they get this experience that they won't have in a classroom. But this website also gives you the ability to look through these field trips by subject area, or these virtual experiences with subject area. So there's all of these possible choices to pick from. So this would probably fit into the natural world or conservation of the environment. The last one I want to show you is one here for the San Diego Zoo. So the San Diego Zoo actually has live streams for animals and things like that. So you can have students notice what they're eating, what they're doing, how they interact with each other. But there's all of these live cams for giraffes, pandas, penguins, tigers, all these things. And you can even ask students like, hey, you go and investigate what you want to, what you find interesting. See, stop. So yeah, I think virtual field trips can be a great source for students to be interactive and also experience things that they probably wouldn't have gotten the ability to in another setting or things like that. So our two standards are: students conduct research on issues and interests by generating ideas and questions and by posing problems. They gather, evaluate, and synthesize data from a variety of sources to communicate their discoveries in ways that suit their purpose and audience. Standard 12 says students use spoken, written, and visual language to accomplish their own purposes. Our key themes are making observations, collecting data, distinguishing important from less important information, and comparing and contrasting prior learning to current experiences.
I hope our video was informational about both in-person field trips and virtual field trips. I hope you can use the information that we provided to create your own field trips for your students and give them that extra learning experience that can help them immensely. Thanks. Bye.